Okay, for today's video, we are going to go over my little review over Meg 2: The Trench. I watched this a few days ago, and yeah, we'll just get right into what I thought about this. So this is going to be similar to my Jurassic World Dominion reaction. It's not going to be like super heavily detailed, like some movie breakdowns. More or less, I'm just going to be giving a few of my thoughts about the movie, talk about a few scenes, and just some stuff that I liked about the movie, and I'll talk about specifically how I felt about the movie and if I would recommend watching it. So overall, I actually really liked the movie. As far as like the Jaws or like shark monster esque movies, I actually really liked this one, and I think this is actually one of the better shark movies I've seen. Um, and I've watched the first one, and I really did like the first one, but I actually like this one even more. Like, I don't know exactly what I would rate them, but it would definitely be over a 5 for the first one. Like, 5 being just average movie, like 0 being like the worst movie I've ever seen, and 10 being like the best movie I've ever seen. The first one would probably be like 6, 7 ish. And this one would probably be like a 7 to 9, somewhere in between that. So, like a 8, maybe a little higher, honestly. I really like this movie, actually. Yeah, I would probably say an 8 or 9, actually, for this one, and the first one, like a 6 or 7. And I really did enjoy the first one, but this one I just think is even better. And like I said, I think the first one was really good, but I think this one was really good. Um, I think it had a really good mix of like some awesome action and some like funny scenes, making for a very well paced movie with like no long boring spots. I know that was one complaint with the Jurassic World Dominion, where like the intro was like kind of long, like the whole locust thing was kind of long before anything really interesting happened. Um, but this one I think was really well paced. There was a lot of interesting stuff going on from the very beginning all the way to the end. Um, and I really like the cast in the movie with um, a lot of other actors, or with a lot of actors I really thought did really well. But I wish that the lead actress in the first Meg movie would have been in the movie. I can't. I think her name was Su Yin, and I don't know why specifically she wasn't in this movie. I mean, they did address it in the movie, but I wish she would have been in it. I think she was a really good actress and was really good in the first movie. But I think I saw something. She's only been in like one movie since that movie and's like been doing some other stuff. But she was really good in the first one. So I was kind of hoping she would have been in this one, but she wasn't. I won't say the reason why because I don't want to spoil that. But she's not in this one, unfortunately. But she was, like I said, she was really good in the first one, but she wasn't in this one. Um, but a lot of the returning cast was really good. Some of my favorite people in the movie were some of the returning cast. I think most of them actually were the returning cast. DJ specifically was hilarious in the movie. He had a lot of the stuff he said was just really funny, especially like his fighting scenes in the movie were great. Um, and not surprisingly, with how most of my movie thoughts are, as far as the Rotten Tomatoes review, I don't go heavily off Rotten Tomatoes. Usually, if I think I'm going to like a movie, I just go and watch it. Like, I watched the Mario movie, I liked it. And I don't remember exactly what the Rotten Tomatoes stuff were. But usually, just if I think I'm going to like a movie, I just go and watch it, and I don't really base it off what other sources say. Just, I don't know. I just think usually that's just how I personally do it. But I disagreed heavily with the Rotten Tomatoes review. At the time of this recording, the original Meg movie has a higher Rotten Tomato score than this one, and they're both horrible scores. And the fan score is a lot better for this movie, and I completely agree. I mean, the fan score was low for the first one. I think they're both a little low for what I would personally rank them, but I agree way heavier with the fan scores for these movies, like most movies. The fan scores on the Rotten Tomatoes, like I said, way more similar to what I thought, at least at the time of recording this video. I think it was like almost like it was like 70% something for the fan and like 30% for the like the actual Rotten Tomato critics. And I mean, I guess I'm not like a movie critic. Like I guess there's like character things and stuff that movie critics mainly rate it by, but I guess where I'm mainly just rating it on my personal enjoyment of the movie and stuff. Yeah, but I personally, like I said, really like the movie, but the Rotten Tomato scores, the fan scores reflected more how I felt about the movies, except I think both should have been higher, especially the original one. The original Meg score has like horrible scores. Like honestly, based off the Rotten Tomatoes scores, I'm surprised they even made a second movie. But the fan scores were really good on the second one. Um, and I will say this is not the most accurate as far as like if you're like going into this movie as far as that. Like, I mean, I think we just kind of have to. I wish this wasn't the case because like with like Jurassic Park and stuff. Like I know Jurassic Park when it first came out, the animals were like is actually really accurate, but then they like since they kept just using those types of models as animals got more up to date, they're just less and less accurate as the movies go on. But um, I don't know if we're ever going to get super accurate prehistoric animals in movies. And I mean, I guess really these aren't if this whole like plot in the movie was real, where there was like actually living megalodons under this like coat of whatever that is in the water, they wouldn't be the exact same animals as they were back then because they would have changed over time. But still, not all the animals in this movie are super accurate. I mean, and even like the behavior isn't super accurate. I think like the scene where the T-Rex just runs off those animals right on the coast, just it makes more sense for it to like more or less, especially if it knew that megalodons were in that shallow of water, it would have made more sense for it to just drag off a piece of the meat and eat it, or like try to drag off the carcass instead of getting in the water and just standing in the water for that long waiting for a small animal to come instead of just eating the dead carcass. Like it just didn't make a ton of sense as far as that. But I get why they did it. It was a cool little intro scene, but as far as what an actual animal would do, I don't think that's what it would happen. But I did actually really like the little food chain scene with like the dragonfly, the Rex, and the Meg. Like obviously, T-Rex and Megalodon did not live with each other, and Megalodon would not have been that much bigger than T-Rex, but it was still a cool little scene that I personally really enjoyed. And one thing specifically about the animals that I thought was really interesting were like the crocodilian amphibian things. I'm not sure exactly what they were, and I haven't seen like anybody say specifically what they are either. But they appeared throughout the movie a few times, but they were really cool. And what is really interesting, if they were crocodilians, that would mean that like somewhere in that like underwater thing that there's like somewhere where there's oxygen. So that could mean there's like a whole nother prehistoric world under that like trench line thing. So as far as a third movie, it could get really interesting. And what would be really cool if there is like a thing like that where there's oxygen, that would mean that there could be marine reptiles living in the trench as well. I guess it's probably not true. It's whatever that like stuff is that separates the water and they have where the megalodons can live and stuff. But still, I thought that was really cool. And also speaking about the environment, the underwater environment was really great with like the variety of marine animals, and just the actual like rocks and coral and stuff looked awesome. Yeah, I just thought that it looked really well. And like the Meg model itself, I will say specifically, I actually liked it. I mean, it is. I do love that they didn't just make it just a big great white shark. Like it is different from a great white shark, so I did really like that. So as far as the Meg model, I actually like the Meg model in the movie, even though I don't think it's. I don't know if it's the most accurate model. I'm not like the biggest person as far as Meg accuracy or Megalodon accuracy, but I don't think the model's horrible. And I'd love that they didn't just carbon copy a great white shark, because we know Megalodon wouldn't look like just an upsized great white shark. I mean, it would look kind of similar, but it wouldn't be just a cookie cutter great white shark, but up the size. So I'm glad that they didn't just copy the size or just copy it, but make it bigger. But overall conclusion, I personally really enjoyed the movie, and I know not everybody has or will share that opinion. However, I did really enjoy it, so I would recommend watching it, especially if you like the first one, because I personally think this one is way better than the first one. Well, I say way. I want to say I really like the first one, but I do think this one is like a tier or two better than that one. And I don't think that one's a bad movie. I just personally think this one is really good. And I did want to mention one thing. If you don't remember seeing this figure in any of my previous videos, it's not that you don't remember. It's that I literally just got this figure for this review. And I'm not saying I bought it solely for this review. I've said, as some of you all know, I've been trying to complete the Carnegie collection. I've been more vocal about that, but I'm also just trying to complete the Safari Ltd prehistoric line in general. So I definitely plan on getting this figure at some point. And I didn't have a Megalodon figure in my collection. I don't know if it's just because I had some shark figures, and there's really not a ton of Megalodon figures, honestly, for as popular as the animal as Meg is. I guess it's just because most people that are collecting that aren't like just super avid collectors, they'll just pick up a great white shark model, and if they want a Meg figure, they'll just use it as that. But I didn't have a Meg figure, so I'm glad to finally own one. I will say there is a new one by How Long Good that looks really awesome that I honestly considered getting, but I knew I could pick this one up in store, so I decided to just go that route. And it's like I said, I'm trying to complete that Safari line, so it just made a lot of sense to just finally pick up this figure. And like I said, I definitely plan on getting this figure at some point, but the only reason why I'm saying that I specifically got it for this video is because I got it right now for the video. I would have got it probably in the next year or so, but I got it right now for this video. But I did buy it, and I did buy it at Michael's yesterday as of recording this video, so definitely happy with the purchase. I'll probably review this figure at some point. Funny enough, they actually had two in the store, but the one in the store that had the tag on it had like marks and like paint chips really bad on the body, so I actually switched the tags. I didn't switch like for a different tag. It's the actual Megalodon tag, so I did pay the Megalodon price. I didn't like switch it with like a cheap figure. The two Megalodon figures, there was only one tag, and I wanted the better condition one, so finally got the Safari Ltd Megalodon, and very happy with it. Looks great, and like I said, just really happy with it, and definitely plan on trying to get that How Long Good one at some point, but really happy with this. And honestly, this movie actually probably helps like companies like Safari and How Long Good with selling their Meg figures, just because people are thinking more about Meg with a Meg movie, so hopefully that helps Safari get some more of these selling. I'm sure they're not having any trouble selling these figures because this one came out in like 2012 and it's still in production. If a Safari figure isn't still in production after 10 years, it must be selling very well, because they retire some figures after just a few years, unfortunately. But if one keeps in production this long, it's one that's pretty popular. So they probably didn't need the boost, but I definitely think this would definitely not hurt them, if anything. But yeah, once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all watch the Meg 2, The Trench, and if you do, I'd love to know what your thoughts on it are. I personally really enjoyed the movie, and I kind of hope they make a third one. It could be horrible, but I really enjoyed the first and second one, so I wouldn't care to see a third one. I know that some people probably didn't like this movie at all and definitely don't want that, but I personally would. So yeah, once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'd love to know your all's thoughts on Meg 2 The Trench, and if you all ended up watching it.